Sierra Leone's President Julius Maada Bio declared last Thursday the prevalence of rape and sexual assault a national emergency, saying those convicted of sexual offences against minors would face life in prison after months of campaigning by activists. According to police statistics, reported cases of sexual and gender-based violence in Sierra Leone nearly doubled in 2018 to over 8,000, one-third of which involved a minor. Gender-based violence is traditionally seen as a taboo topic in the West African nation. Only 12 years ago, Parliament passed its first gender equality laws in 46 years of independence, following lobbying efforts by women's rights groups. Implementation of these policies has been slow, and law enforcement agencies have been hampered by inadequate resources, promoting a culture of impunity. In December, First Lady Fatima Bio led a demonstration in Freetown to raise awareness on rape, and she has since launched her Hands Off Our Girls campaign to increase awareness of violence against girls across the region. Now, for more on this horrific trend in Sierra Leone, I'm joined by Bernadette Kamara, a Sierra Leonean native and founder and president of BK Behavioral Health Center. Bernadette, welcome again to Africa 54.
Thank you for having me.
This is a sad story to discuss, but we have to talk about it. I'm just wondering, is life in prison for sexual offenders enough to deter this kind of vice?
No, actually, it's a start, and I'm happy that the president has declared it a national emergency because it's going to force people to start talking about it. And I'm glad also that the First Lady is actually also in the front lines about this problem, but that's just the beginning. First of all, it should not be just for minors, it should be for everybody. So anybody that raped somebody should be put in prison.
Now, I'm just wondering, because in 2012, there was a law that had been passed about sexual offenses where people who are involved in that or, would get 5 to 15 years. Now it's life in prison. But I'm wondering, as a behavioral health expert, what kind of conversations ought to be going on within the Sierra Leonean community right now?
Well, as we have in one of my disciplines, ABA, we said learning is a permanent change in behavior. So what we have to do is educate our people. The women have to know that it is okay to bring up these topics. So if they're raped, they don't suffer in silence, as it has been in our culture for many years. So remember that this is not the first time this is happening. It's always happening. It's only that now we have ways in which these atrocities are reported. So what we need to do is to have a good educational program in which we can educate our people, men and women, to understand what the effect of this crime is. So for example, you have a man raping a woman. They never go back and ask the girl or try to find out what's happening in the life of that girl.
And the sad part here, we have a very young victim that was raped by an uncle.
Yeah.
I mean, where does a kid like that get a voice to say, this has happened to me? I mean, what kind of counseling, when we say let them speak up, speak up about what has happened to them, who is going to be the voice of reason here? Who is going to be the voice of a victim?
We start with the parents. We start with our elders. We start with teaching our people to understand what the effects of rape are. Growing up in Africa, we have seen it, and as we've seen, because this is a global problem, it's not just an African problem, but we have seen the culture of being silenced. When a woman says, I'm raped, in fact, she's victimized even more so. When a child comes home and says, Mom, uncle touched me a certain place, she's slapped and sent to go sit down somewhere and be quiet. So until we start changing those behaviors, until we start saying, okay, when my daughter comes to me and say, I don't want to go to uncle's house, I want to stay at home, mommy, mom start listening and making sure that that uncle don't come close to my daughter next time, that's not going to stop. Because most of the perpetrators of these crimes, they are family members. They are either in the family or family friends, people that are well respected in the community and that a child can never even raise their voice against. So when we start understanding that when you rape a 5-year-old, maybe you have that 5 minutes time with that girl, but that girl has to suffer for the rest of her life. For that 5 minutes that you've taken from her life. When we start understanding the effects of that, I think then we start taking it more seriously.
Well, Bernadette, this is a topic that we need to have you come back here to discuss further, and counseling services obviously are helpful. Speaking up is helpful.
Yes.
We wish the best for all those who are victims, and we hope that this will stop, because it's not only in Sierra Leone, like you said.
Everywhere. It's everywhere. It's a global problem, and I really hope that our leaders start taking the necessary step in educating and providing mental health services for our people. And when I talk about mental health, I'm not talking about, when we talk about mental health, people thinking we're talking about crazy people. We're talking about each one of us in the way we behave with our people.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Bernadette Kamara is a native of Sierra Leone and a founder and president of BK Behavioral Health Center.